Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My reading week has been very good. I started my reading week finishing off Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. I read volumes 16 through 27, and I had a blast. Fullmetal Alchemist is one of my favorite manga series. It's the story of Edward and Alphonse Elric, two prodigy alchemists who attempt human transmutation, a forbidden alchemical operation with the intent of resurrecting their deceased mother. The transmutation fails, and the brothers are maimed. Edward loses a leg, Alphonse loses his body. To save Alphonse's life, Edward sacrifices an arm to basically bind Alphonse's soul to a suit of armor. A year after this event, Edward with prosthetics called Ottoman becomes a state alchemist in the Amestrian military with the codename Fullmetal Alchemist. Edward uses this position in order to research the Philosopher's Stone, an alchemical artifact reputed to be able to bypass the law of equivalent exchange, one of the fundamental laws of alchemy. As Edward and Alphonse travel Amestris, they uncover the awful truth about the Philosopher's Stone and its creation, as well as an ancient conspiracy running to the very foundations of Amestris. And a conspiracy in which both brothers and a number of their allies are important human sacrifices for their promised day. So the arcs I read for the final 12 volumes of Fullmetal Alchemist include the Briggs arc, in which the brothers follow a Gies princess named Mei Chang to the north of Amestris. Mei is traveling with Scar, an Ishivalan terrorist and serial killer who targets state alchemists. While in the north of Amestris, the brothers encounter Major General Olivier Mira Armstrong, the older sister of Major Armstrong, and she becomes an ally of them after some uncertainty. Since Scar is in the north, the Central Command sends a disgraced state alchemist named Kimberly to take care of him, and he brings 4 Chimera bodyguards. After numerous encounters between Scar and Kimberly, things take a downward sort of trajectory, and Edward and Alphonse Elric are separated for several months at the end of this arc. The brothers during this time meet up with Scar and form a working alliance with him that sort of brings him into the Elric, Briggs, Mustang sort of orbit in opposition to Central Command and the homunculi who secretly run Amestris. So, and then there's a brief time skip, and then the sort of coup on the promised day in which Mustang and Armstrong launch dual coups against King Bradley, who is the fear president of Amestris. And it's amazing and heartbreaking, and just the final sort of chapters are it is wonderful. I'm really looking forward to making a dedicated Fullmetal Alchemist video, as well as Magic the Labyrinth of Magic. I really need to do that and figure out how I want to do that. Part of the problem is that I'm going to frequently read and reread Fullmetal Alchemist and a number of the manga series that I'm currently loving. So I don't know exactly how I can keep these weekly reads discussions of them fresh. I was sort of saying, I'm rereading this and I'm loving it, so yeah, I'll figure it out eventually. Anyway, so that was a blast and the absolute highlight of my reading week by a wide margin. But while I do have one bell, I actually managed to finish a book that was not manga. So that was pleasing. So first up, I had to go at Lost Paradise, The Story of Grenada by Elizabeth Drayson. So this is the history of Grenada. And I didn't get on with it. I didn't particularly like Drayson's style. It's a bit more of a travelogue. It's just, it didn't work for me. So I bailed on it. And then I moved on to The Dark Queens by Shelley Puhak. So this is a dual biography of Queens Brunhild and Fredegund, who were queens during who were queens of various parts of Francia during the late 6th century and early 7th century. So under the Merovingians, Francia would occasionally have a great king who would unify Francia under his rule and do away with competing kings within his dynasty. However, with Frankish inheritance laws at the time, the king's surviving sons would split the kingdom amongst themselves, forming smaller kingdoms that they would then rule as kings. So at this time, there were 4 kingdoms in Francia: Aquitaine, Burgundy, Austrasia, and Neustria. Brunhild was a Visigothic princess from Spain who married Sigebert, who was king of Austrasia. And Fredegund, who was a slave girl, caught the eye and eventually married King Chiliperic of Neustria. And the two queens began a lifelong rivalry, largely because their husbands were lifelong rivals. Chiliperic was constantly pushing the bounds of his older brother's territories because he did not get much compared to his brothers. Although as fortunes rose and waned, his territory gradually increased and shrank, as did his brothers. And eventually, both Brunhild and Fredegund became Queen's regent and were very impactful in the period. So it was interesting. I thought so I liked the book. It's good. I didn't love it. It's on the good side of okay. I'm not particularly enamored of the writing style. It's very pop history with a bit of a historical. It's not really historical fiction. It's just there's something about the style that it's very reminiscent of, say, Tom Holland or maybe Dan Jones or Alison Rear. So it's pop history, and I think there is something odd about the style. I think maybe this is Puhak's first work of nonfiction, so it could be that. But the book is enjoyable. It's effective. So yeah, other side. So on to next week. So this weekend I'm going to be focusing on more manga. So the first batch of manga I will be reading will be the 3 new releases that I have yet to get to. So I'm going to be reading Eden Zero, Volume 28 by Hiro Mashima, Four Nights of the Apocalypse, Volume 12 by Nakaba Suzuki, and Dandadan, Volume 7 by Yukinobu Tatsu. And once I finish them, I will read 9 volumes of Naruto. 3 volumes tomorrow after I finish the 3 new releases, and then 6 volumes on Sunday, if everything goes according to plan. Now we come to the work week. Now, part of the reason why I was focusing on something that was not manga over the course of the work week is my mom had some appointments this week, and I decided to go with her. I mean, well, I have to, because I'm her caretaker. And so my thought was to read a work of history or fiction while I was waiting, because sometimes the doctor or the lab work takes a while to be done. Although today was pretty quick, all considered. And actually, I'd finished the Dark Queens yesterday, so I actually tried to do some poetry, and I'm not going to talk about it because I've already talked about that particular collection enough this year, and still don't particularly care for it. So my mom has another appointment, well, 2 appointments this coming week, so I'm torn between 3 books once I finish off my 9 volumes of Naruto. I could do a Bill of Redemption of Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. I could read Life in a Medieval City by Joseph and Francis Gies. Or Gies. Or I could read The Last Days of the Ottoman Empire by Ryan Gingeras. I haven't quite decided. I will, of course, report back next week with what I ultimately decide to read. Anyway, so video plans for next week. So I do need to figure out how I want to do my Fullmetal, Alchemist, and Magi the Labyrinth of Magic videos. For one. For two, I do want to do a video about my manga collection and what series I'm thinking about starting, since I have sort of collected or caught up with a series, and I've completed all of the 7 series that I have been sort of actively collecting, or have caught up with them if they're still in publication. So I need a new 7 if I decide that I want to do the 7 series at a time thing, or just focus on one to completion and then, or catching up and then move on. But I'm also thinking of doing a rearrangement of my manga shelves, and I might do that as a video, but I don't know exactly how I would do that, and also whether or not I should do that before or after I do my excuse me, my when the library tour, because I am doing a 2024 library tour, hits the manga section. I'm also thinking of doing a similar rearrangement with my history shelves and my classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama shelves. Although the later one would be relatively easy because I like how I have it organized. How I have it organized needs to change. So that one wouldn't be that difficult to do. But this one in my manga probably would be. So I need to figure out how I want to do that at some point. I'm going to also continue with my library tour, at least with the cookbooks. I may possibly be able to get to classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama. I still need a better title for that. I'm going to actually run through options for the titles. That could be an idea. I don't know if I will get to those next week because of where they're located, because I do want to do the tour on location. And I don't quite know if that would work. That would need some finagling to figure out. And of course, there are also a number of discussion videos I would like to do, which have proven a bit difficult for me to do so. Hopefully next week will be rather busy. Although don't expect any videos on Thursday because that is when my mom has her appointment. So I will likely be absent on Thursday, or although I could just do maybe if I could do one of the library tour videos then. I might hold off on, might go ahead and do the cookbook video this weekend and then just wait until Thursday to upload it. I'll figure it out. But anyway, BookTube, starting to ramble, so I'm going to sign off for this week. So I will see you next week. So until then, thank you, BookTube. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend. And until next week, stay safe.